You are listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. I'm Kyle Bryan.
And I'm Sean Baumstark. Together, we're navigating life with disability.
Sean and I were both diagnosed with a rare, debilitating, life-shortening disease that has affected our physical abilities and causes us to live with urgency. We are constantly looking for the next challenge, not only in spite of our disease, but because of it.
We are two dudes who constantly challenge our own abilities, and we invite you to do the same.
Hi, it's Kyle and Sean. We're excited to bring you a series of interviews focused on Rare Disease Day, which is coming up on February 28th.
On February 15th, we have Nicole Boice, the CEO of Global Genes, on the show. On February 20th, we have Max Bronstein, Chief Advocacy and Science Policy Officer at the Every Life Foundation for Rare Diseases.
On February 22nd, we have Paul Melmeyer, Associate Director of Public Policy at the National Organization for Rare Disorders. And on February 27th, we have our very own Ron Bartek, President and co-founder of the Friedreich's Ataxia Research Alliance.
Now, on with the show.
Today we are here with Nicole Boice, who is the CEO of Global Genes and is doing some really amazing work in their rare disease space. We're really excited to have Nicole with us, so thanks for joining us, Nicole.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. Thanks, Kyle.
And Sean's here too, so.
Thank you, Sean.
Hey, everybody. You don't have to, that's fine.
So Nicole, just to start us off, I wanted to hear your story from your perspective. I read your bio, but we want to hear from you.
Sure. About 18 years ago, my dear friend's son was born in Southern California, smack in the middle of some of the best healthcare in the world. And he was born, shockingly, with extra fingers and toes, bowed bones. He wasn't progressing. He was seeing different specialists. They thought he was blind at one point. He wasn't able to expel phlegm. He had such low tone muscle. He was having bouts of pneumonia and bronchitis. And the family went on this, crazy journey for 6 months in the hospital to try to find out what was wrong. And they ultimately were sent home with no prognosis and no diagnosis. They had no heads up that any of this was going on. So it was quite a shock. As many people in the rare disease community know, it's the start of just an incredible journey with a lot of unknowns. And that's kind of what started prompting me to look into this whole world of undiagnosed and strange named conditions. And over the next 3 years, I had the good fortune of meeting additional parents, and again, some undiagnosed and others with disease names like ataxia-telangiectasia and Williams syndrome and juvenile dermatomyositis. And, you start seeing how these families and these moms, when they were coming together, they started sharing all different types of things. Even though diseases were totally different, there was this camaraderie that and kind of shared best practices that was going on. Well, as luck would have it, in the midst of all of this, my dear friend's son had a fluke diagnosis by their physical therapist, and he was diagnosed with Gilbert syndrome. And it took about 3.5 years for them to actually come to that diagnosis. So in that 3.5 years, I saw a lot, and I felt really bad for my friend, and the journey and the fact that there really wasn't a lot of support outside of kind of her early intervention center community of moms. And, you just start thinking, how can I maybe help? And, when I started looking at the stats and facts about rare disease, that's kind of what put me over the edge. And that was my catalyst to say, this is the largest disease community on the planet, more than all cancers and AIDS combined. 30 million people here in the US, 350 million people worldwide. And my big question mark was, why in the heck isn't anyone talking about it? Why aren't we hearing about it in mainstream media? Why aren't there more resources available for these families? And so that was kind of my catalyst. And, it's just kind of, I consider myself a champion for the community. Today, I have 2 kids that are healthy, and I'm very blessed. That could change tomorrow. And I guess I would hope that, there would people out there fighting in my court as well.
Wow, what a story. I think you make a great point. The unknown is such a scary place to be, especially when you're dealing with health. And for a diagnosis to take many weeks, many months, for some several years, that's really, I think Kyle might agree, and a lot of our listeners, knowing is half the battle. Even though there may not be a cure or any type of treatment right now, if I know what I'm up against and I know what I'm living with, that alone helps kind of calm some anxiety to a certain extent. It's still scary, and it's still, for lack of a better term, it still sucks, but the unknown begins to fill up some, get us to a point where we know a thing or two, and that alone is calming in and of itself. So I am so glad that you took up that mantle, and that you're still running with it, and everything that you and Global Genes is doing is incredible. Even though I'm meeting you for the first time, I've actually started reading about Global Genes 3 or 4 years ago, and I see the extent of your reach, so I'm incredibly grateful as one of those members in that rare disease community. So thank you for sharing that story with us.
Well, and thank you for what you guys are doing. It takes a village, and everyone really plays a really important role together for us to keep building on this, the momentum that has begun. And I think, efforts like this are just really critical. And I know you guys have another question, but just fodder for future webcasts. You brought up a really good point, and we get contacted a lot by families whose doctors won't pursue genetic testing to find a diagnosis, and because there are, quote unquote, might not be a treatment or a therapy currently in existence for them. And I think that this is a huge problem, because you just hit it on the head. Everything in rare disease is really driven by patients, right? So we need to know, so that we can start taking those steps and be drivers in whatever it is, coordinating community, pursuing disease research. And so I think you brought up a really good point on how incredibly important knowing is. So thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think of it like a boxing match with the lights turned off. When you don't know what you're fighting against, you can't land punches and you can't move forward. And that's how I think about it. For me, when we were in the dark, when we didn't know what it was that was causing all this stuff to go wrong with my health and in my balance in sports and just getting along in PE and whatever, all that stuff. And once we found out what it was, as hard as that was to take, the lights were switched on and we could start landing punches. We could start moving forward and identifying the ways in which we can start moving forward. So I like that a lot too.
Excellent. And if I may, that kind of leads into why Global Genes and why we started, because There's no kind of toolbox or roadmap, when you're thrown into this crazy world, and whether you're, a young child with a parent, or a patient yourself, there's a lot of unknowns, and sometimes you have to kind of start everything from scratch, like what we talked about. So really, Global Gene's mission has always been, pretty simple. It's to eliminate the challenges of rare disease. But what we do to help try to eliminate some of those challenges is work to kind of educate. We want to educate this global community and build tools and resources that help you move down that path. And what is equally as important is creating really critical connections, right? Because like what we talked about earlier, some of the things that I noticed when those moms got together 18 years ago, regardless of disease, they all had shared experiences and common stresses that they could help each other out with. And, imagine the power of a community, a global community that's connected and sharing best practices and helping teach each other and mentor each other. We can cut time to, some of the challenges that we face and move forward more quickly, because we all know that time is not our friend. So, we as a community can become more efficient. We can become, stronger, better educated, and more empowered. And we can truly become activists, much like you both are, for the communities that you care about. And so that's really, kind of what Global Genes, what our goals are. It's like, how can we help be a catalyst for this and help make this happen and help grow the community and help build those connections so that everyone wins, right? So that's ultimately our mission and our goals.
So a minor detail, how long has Global Genes, I know you said 18 years ago was kind of your push. How long has Global Genes been in business, so to speak?
Yeah, so we officially became an organization in September of 2008, and right at the start of the recession, which was a pretty fun time. And our advisors were like, "What are you thinking?" But they said, "If you come out of it and you guys are still around, then you'll know that you're needed." So here we are. I'm sorry. I was just going to say we kind of really became an organization with our first board, and really putting structure around what we were doing in early 2010. So I would say we've been at this for a good solid, 6.5 years.
Well, as a formal thing, yeah, but like I said, 18 or so years, you've been kind of
thinking about what
playing with the clay, so to speak.
Exactly.
My question for you, and kind of why I started with the how many years really, is when you look back over your mission to eliminate the challenges for rare disease patients, when you look back over the 8, 10, 12 years, what do you see as some of your rally points, some successes, or maybe some mountains that you reached the top of that I would assume has motivated you to continue your efforts today? What are some of those milestones that you've shared over the years?
Well, we kind of started, it was myself and some patient advocates with this, big vision of, oh my God, let's stand from the highest rooftops and scream that rare disease is here so that the lay public and the world knows, so that we can start getting some broader support, because this community needs more money and more support for treatments, therapies, and cures. We thought that was going to be super easy. And, lo and behold, that wasn't the case. However, listen, I think we're at the base of the mountain, and our inspiration every single day are patient advocates like yourself and parent advocates. I mean, every day we talk to patients about their journeys. And, I would say some of the milestones have been more of the coordination that's happened within the community and some of the things that we've been able to bring to fruition. So the whole notion of genes for genes, right? The denim ribbon that's kind of signified Global Genes started in the UK and then Australia. This idea of, creating this kind of global image or brand that can help draw greater attention and support and hopefully money down the road for this community. That was kind of, those have always been our big picture goals. But what we saw that needed to happen before we could go make those big asks are really trying to help catalyze and really, really build a collaborative community. We say a lot, Global Genes doesn't need to own every relationship with every single person affected by a rare disease. But what we need to do is build trusted partnerships with leaders in the community and create that network effect, right? If we're building tools because you guys say that you need them and we distribute them, we just want the community to know that they're valuable and meaningful and get them out to their networks. And so we believe that the more that we can continue to build on, right now we work with about 500 different patient orgs. We are starting to work with organizations in different countries and areas in need around the world. As long as we can keep doing that and keep building these trusted partnerships and this trusted network, then I think we will be, things will start happening a lot more quickly. And, so for the last 6 years, we've worked really hard to kind of get that going. And I believe we're on that track right now.
Well, a lot of people say there's power in numbers or even force in numbers. So I'm with you on the networking side of it. Like I said earlier, it takes a village. It takes a community. And the more people you can lock arms with, the easier, so to speak, it is to face down these challenges that a lot of patients and families are up against.
Absolutely.
I agree. So, Nicole, how does Global Genes fulfill the mission that they have? You talked a lot about the mission, but how is it fulfilled? When do you guys say, all right, we're hitting our stride and we're doing good work, we're doing what we're meant to do?
We're the type of organization that feels that we still have so much work to do. But, over the past, 4 years, we have started building tools and resources that came as requests from our patient advocacy partners, from our biotech and pharma partners, in an effort to truly equip patient advocates with the tools that they need to go out there and rock their rare disease world. And we build toolkits on a variety of topics, from, so you think you want to start a nonprofit, to legislating for your disease, to starting a virtual biotech. We also have signature events that bring together the rare disease community, not only, a big, large international event that happens once a year, but we're rolling out different types of regional meetings to try to help educate the community on things like, care and support or capacity building, but then what we know is ultimately everyone's goal, which is, how can we be architects of the future for our disease, around drug development, around driving legislation. So how can we help be a catalyst for new knowledge, because we know that knowledge is power, and that helps activate a community and turn advocates in rare disease into activists. Truly, we need more Kyles and Seans in the world, right? You guys are out there rocking it. So, the more that we can bring this type of education, that in turn creates that sense of comfort and, willingness to dip your toe in and take that next step forward as an activist, then we're all winning. So I would say it's our building of tools and resources, our hosting of in-person type events. We also have really fun campaigns that are integrated with Rare Disease Day, as well as other things around the world or throughout the year, because we know that in this world, in this community, you get a lot of no's and you get a lot of I don't knows, or people who, aren't willing to take the time. And so there's a lot of negatives. And so, what we've always wanted to do is have Global Genes be that place that patient advocates and parents and can go and feel that levity, right? Put a smile on your face, come to our events and meet with others and be inspired and do some yoga, so how can we help bring levity, some new ideas and creative ideas to create some fun, when we are as a community kind of entrenched in, we have to dig deep for positives, in rare disease. And so we try to celebrate that with our tribute. We try to really bring positivity and optimism and hope to the community. And so that's kind of, what some of our inherent goals are here.
So this series of episodes is focused on Rare Disease Day. It's, our big day, right, in the rare disease community, and that's coming up on February 28th. What are the things that Global Genes is doing specifically for Rare Disease Day?
Sure. So, this is always a really exciting time of the year for us personally. So we partner with a lot of different organizations. So we work with Every Life Foundation with their activities in DC. We partnered with them from the very first year to kind of bring advocates and kind of create that rally cry at the federal level, and it's been an annual week-long series of events that we are appreciative and love being part of. We also, like what we talked about with the Global Genes, the Genes for Genes concept, throughout the year, but most particularly around this day, we send out upwards of 200,000 denim ribbons and ribbon cards to different events that happen all around the world. So what we've tried to do is create a really easy way for patient advocates, for the lay public to get involved to support this community in different unique ways. So we have college kids creating, Wear Denim Days and raising money or awareness for rare diseases that they care about. We have businesses, again, Wear Genes Days in support of rare disease. And what's so cool is, with this type of campaign, we don't really care who or what disease communities that people are supporting. This is really about this kind of commonality around rare disease awareness. So the Genes for Genes concept, like I said, we brought kind of here to the U.S., but it's been happening for over 20 years around the globe. And we just try to make that another fun addition to for people and organizations to participate in rare disease in a fun Rare Disease Day in a fun, unique way. So we also create a lot of social media opportunities with fun Facebook frames and ways that people can show that they #CareAboutRare and help support the community in a big way. And we do have a huge social push, and we've kind of done that every year, and it's also gotten a lot of exposure, not only on Facebook, on Twitter, and other social platforms too. So for people out there that are listening, our big message is get involved. Be creative. Find your friends and family, because everyone knows someone, a loved one, a family member, a friend affected by a rare disease. Think about it. Look for those people and help. And reach out and say, what can I do to help you? And then find something through Global Genes or any of the other Rare Disease Day partners and find some fun ways to get involved, whether it's through social, whether it's through hosting an event, or like I said, I think what could be most meaningful is for people to start reaching out to those that they love and know that are affected by a rare disease, and let them know that they're there, that there's resources out there and available, because that's really what it's about.
I'm really glad you keep using the word fun, because it not only is it's imperative. You're up against these monstrous challenges and you're still breathing, so you got to find a way to have a little bit of fun and to remain hopeful. But also, if anybody visits your website, globalgenes.org, you can see it's just loaded with a ton of fun, creative things and ways to get involved. So I'm really glad you keep using that word, because it's valuable for life, and I think it's indicative and a witness of your website. Obviously, you guys are doing some fun things and being creative and keeping it relevant and fresh for the members of the community and everybody connected to it. So kudos on that keyword.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that.
I think, I think all those little taglines and hashtags and stuff are powerful. I remember the first time I ever heard of Global Genes. I went to Lobby Day in DC for Rare Disease Week. It was in 2011 or 2012 or something. And I saw a business card, like a business card sized flyer. It might have even been a business card, whatever. But on the back it said, "Hope, it's in our genes." And it was the Global Genes logo, and it hit me in the gut. Like, I was like, wow, like, just those few words were so powerful to me. Just to say, hey, we have hope, and we're all in this together, like that. And so, that was my first introduction to Global Genes, and you guys continue to put out hopeful stuff and just hopeful messages that I really love.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you. And we take zero credit for that tagline, because we just had some really brilliant people who cared, who very quickly came up with that. And, I do think it's very telling. It was like this brilliant epiphany, when they shared that with us, and we were like, wow, this is it. This really, and this was pre-precision medicine, and this was pre-personalized medicine when they even came up with this, and like to think how relevant it was at the time and what it really means. It's so, and you guys, I know, are living it. It's, there is hope, and hope begins with us. It's in us, right? And for a lot of us, it's about our participation as patient activists, right? It's about participating in clinical trials. It's about understanding what is causing everything that's going on with you, so that you can go out and like be that activist, like what we talked about. So there was like so many. The hope, it's in your genes tagline was so relevant in so many ways. And yeah, they did a fabulous job. So thank you for saying that.
So coming back again to the focus on Rare Disease Day. Rare Disease Day started in 2008. What do you see as the value of the actual Rare Disease Day, with the focus on that day? Obviously we all do our work throughout the year, but what do you see as the value of that day?
Well, if you really ask me, I think this community deserves more than a day. I think we need a month. And which is why, I think this is so let me step back and say, I think this is a really important day. Listen, it's a day that the world of rare disease can come together arm in arm. We're creating this camaraderie. And like we said, a day of levity and of sisterhood and brotherhood. Do I think that this community deserves more? Absolutely. And maybe there's some things that, we can bring to the table at some point down the road that could expand that. But yes, I think this is an amazing start. The creator of this day was really smart to do it. I think that they've done a phenomenal job. I do think from a legislative perspective, probably the biggest impact has been using this day as a catalyst, in countries around the world to go out and kind of create that rare disease platform that's that's needed. And so, I think the genesis of the day, and kind of where the roots are and where they come from is really important for this community, because we didn't have anything like this. So, so again, I think it's it provides the ability to be, partners, to shed our specific disease skin and come together arm in arm, and scream to the world that rare disease is here. So,
is there? You don't have to say it's the biggest lesson, but is there a lesson that stands out for you, or a tidbit over the course of 10, 18 years that you've been working in this space? Is there something that sticks out to you as either a lesson learned or a monumentous moment or story, something that you look back and say, this is why I do it? You know, I know you talked about your friend in the beginning and the catalyst to this effort. But over the course of doing this full time, is there anything you can look back and lean on as a sort of powerful, monumentous moment where you said, yes, this is where I belong?
Yes. I mean, the day I left my for-profit career to start this, it was pretty momentous. And I looked at my husband and I said, this is it. I'm all in. And, you know, this is for Kelly and her and Derek, her son, and their family. But, you know, over the course of the time where I was mulling over what was going to happen, you know, it became really clear that this is, you know, a community that needs champions. I felt compelled to try to be one of those. But I'll tell you, I think a couple of things, just as a quote unquote business owner, I would tell you that, you know, obviously there's ebbs and flows at every organization, but I think one of the most important things is, and every day we talk about this, is that every decision that we make, you know, every conversation that we have, whoever we're talking to, any ideas or future programs, everything is made with the patient lens on. Every decision, the core of everything that we do, we ask ourselves, you know, how is that going to impact the community that we're serving? We are lucky to be working, you know, and FARA is one of those organizations, but, you know, with Foundation Alliance members, about 500 different patient orgs. I have personal advisors that are patient advocates. We have board of directors who are patient advocates. So, you know, that is core to everything that we do. So, you know, I think we can always move forward without ego. We can move forward always knowing that we are working really hard to do what's right and what's needed for the community. And that will never, never, ever change. And so I think that was probably the biggest kind of recommendation and or piece of advice that someone very dear to me gave at the outset, and it was a patient advocate. And so that has been something that we've built this entire organization on.
That's powerful. Thank you. That's a great pillar for sure.
So, Nicole, you know, there's quite a few different organizations that are supporting rare diseases, and you know, everyone's got a really great quote too, because I love this one from NORD, the National Organization of Rare Diseases. Alone we are rare, together we are strong. I absolutely love that one too. But my question is, you know, in this space, what is Global Gene's unique perspective? You know, you've talked about it a little bit, but how do you explain it with respect to you know, the other organizations in the space?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a couple of different examples, but first, just look at some of the other big disease communities that have been really successful. You know, look at breast cancer, look at AIDS, look at heart disease. There are numerous organizations to help support these communities, and they've all done really well. And as a result, they've all raised money, and they've all contributed to the success of the communities and keeping our friends alive, right? So I say that as, you know, this is the largest disease community on the planet. In a way, it deserves much more than 4 umbrella organizations participating. We need people filling gaps and helping put this big puzzle piece together, because this community is too big. The challenges are great, and we all need to put, I think, energy into identifying new patients, showcasing and sharing what people's core competencies are, But also knowing that, and I'll relate this to our media consumption, right? Let's look at the recent elections, right? We have Fox News, we have Wall Street Journal, we have CNN, we have the BBC. You know what is so beautiful about the media world today is that we have different platforms and we have different vibes and we have different approaches to certain topics that allows for people to have choices about where they get the information. So I believe that the more people that are engaged and involved in providing solutions with unique tones and with unique efforts, the more people that we're going to get engaged. If you think about it, between all the major organizations, including the NIH, we've likely touched less than 25% of all people affected by rare disease in the U.S. alone. We have a huge, huge opportunity to identify, find, and support more patients. So until we've saturated this market and there's nowhere left to turn and every single person's well supported, then, I say bring it on. Like, I would welcome more organizations out here to rock the world. Now we have RUN, Rare and Undiagnosed Network. I mean, the point is, like, we are a massive community that is still desperately in need of support, creative thinking, innovators, ideas. And so I say bring it on. Just to answer your question about Global Genes, I mean, I think we've talked a lot about it. I would say we really began as a grassroots advocacy organization, and NORD, for example, Genetic Alliance, they've been in the game for a really long time. A lot of the organizations that are involved with NORD have been in the game for a long time. And you see a lot of things evolving and changing, and you see a lot of people that maybe would look at an organization that's focused on advocacy and policy as a little kind of beyond maybe their comfort zone, right? Like, not everyone wants to go out there and sit in a legislator's or a congressperson's office because that's scary. So if you think about Global Genes has always tried to kind of bring this notion of activism and advocacy to the community in a really simple, easy way. Everything that we do, the information that we develop, the programs, the tools are simple because we want things to not be so scary. We want people to be educated as we move them down this continuum so that as they're building biotechs and funding research and being investors, they've been adequately supported, as their education and knowledge base has grown. And so we want to help catalyze more, and we want to identify more patients. When we have all hit 30 million, then we'll know that we've done a really good job.
Wow, that's an incredible... I mean, there's so much in that little bit that I was hanging on to, but that very last line, you're giving me goosebumps. So obviously, I'm partial, and I have an interest in beating cancer and beating Friedreich's ataxia. But what an incredible point you make when we all, as a collective network of rare disease space, can actively identify and name 30 million individuals. Then we've reached our goal. Then we're crossing the finish line, or at least one of them. The real finish line would be a cure and treatments. But wow, what a powerful statement. I will probably quote you until the day I die.
Just make me sound smart.
Love it.
I think one of the other things you mentioned early on, it's kind of a joke or a funny thought in my head. You talk about there's so much going on, and you bring it on. The more the merrier. And we've heard it said there's nothing new under the sun, and I automatically started thinking about love songs. And no matter who the artist is, especially like country songs, I'm not downplaying anything, but no matter who the artist is, we're all singing the same tune. We love her or we love him, and let's be together forever. We just use a different spin, a different perspective, and like you said, we all come to the space with the overall mission to make life better, whatever way that is and whatever words you use. We just do it a little bit different. When you talk about the news, they're all reporting the same story. It's just a different vibe, a different spin, like you mentioned. So that was really neat and powerful. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And your passion is just so incredible. It's very contagious, and I feel blessed to even just spend 20 or 30 minutes or whatever right here on the phone with you. So
it's my honor. No, thank you.
But I am curious, Nicole, since you talked about Kelly and her family, is there anything that you can share us with maybe the outcome? Is there anything going on in the world today that you would, be okay with talking about?
Absolutely. So my friends, Kelly and her family, Derek and her husband Daryl, left and moved out of Southern California to Montana, where they have a really incredibly supportive community for kids with disabilities and special needs. And it was the best move that they could make. And Derek and their family got the absolute best care. And as most parent advocates, they were drivers of ensuring that, he was going to beat every odd. There was a chance that he would never walk or run in his entire life. And he, has a disease that, has other comorbidities. I hate that word, but, liver conditions and things. And Derek has literally beat the odds. And he, at our tribute to champions this past September, Derek, we were so fortunate to have him come, and we got to surprise him on stage. He turned 18 that day, and I will never forget that, no one really knew what his prognosis or how long we would have him with this condition, because a lot of kids with Joubert syndrome, don't live into their teens. And so Derek is thriving, and, he's had great care and caring parents, and, there is no cure right now for Joubert syndrome, but there's a lot of steps and different things that that the family has done to help, give him an incredible quality of life. And for that, we're grateful for all the amazing people up there. So, so back to that early question that we had, right? There is hope in the known, and there's hope that comes out of, parents that are forced to be drivers, or patients that are forced to, think differently and outside the box. And I think that, therein lies, you asked me what my hope is and what drives me every day. Every single day, we get put in front of amazing patient advocates that have this, never say no, give up or never give up attitude. They persevere, they're tenacious, and they are part of the change. And I think that for us is humbling, but it also helps us stay clear on our path, because we know that together, the stories, the fight, the courage that comes from this community is just, it's a game changer, and it is absolutely what drives hope every single day. I think I just rambled, but
no, that's incredible. And one of the phrases that Kyle and I use a lot, or at least I do, there's so much more to life than the circumstance and the disease and the condition. And I love that you shared about Kelly and her family and Derek. Obviously, they're making the most out of their situation, and there is so much more to life than that disease. So thank you for sharing, and obviously thank you for being with us today. What an incredible honor for me to be a part of this conversation.
Folks, that was Nicole Boice, the CEO of Global Genes, and doing some really amazing work and just putting the heart into her work all the time. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Honored to be here, really. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Nicole, real quick, Where do you want people to go? What, your website or any social media handles?
Absolutely. So you can always find us at Global Genes, GENES.org. You can find us on Facebook at Global Genes. We have our Facebook page. Our Twitter handle is at Global Genes. And I think that's all I know.
That's good. It's all connected on the website.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. And we'll list all of that in the show notes for this episode as well. So
perfect. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, you're amazing. You are our inspiration and my inspiration.
thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. To find this episode and links to some of the stuff we talked about today, find us online at twodisableddudes.com or subscribe on iTunes.
We'd like to hear from you and feature your feedback and questions on future podcasts. Be sure to visit us at twodisableddudes.com to find our contact info and connect on social media.
Special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins, who also composed the music.
We'll share a new podcast every other week. We hope you'll listen and share it with a friend. Until next time, keep living with urgency.